We are going to look at ethical dilemmas. And under ethical dilemmas, there are two models that can be used for ethical scenarios. This is the American Accounting Association model and the TACA 5 question model. Now, to discuss this, we are going to look at a ZiCA past paper question, December 2019, question number 4. If you don't have the question, simply go to the search engine and type ZiCA 2019 past paper. You have this question. So question B, we'll start with question B. You can leave part A page, go to B, another page for C. So let's look at part B. It says, describe a suitable model that this company can utilize to determine the most ethical outcome of implementing a strategy to curb alcohol and drug abuse amongst its employees. So basically, in the AA model, there are 7 steps and 7 questions, and the approaches that are used to answer those questions. Now, these 7 steps, and that's the answer to this question. It's a 5-mark question. So step number 1, under the AA model, the question is, what are the facts of the case? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. What are the facts of the case? So you're answering the ZiCA question, question 4. Step 2 is, what are the ethical issues in the case? What are the ethical issues in the case? Step 3, the question is, what are the norms, the principles, and values in the case? What are the norms, principles, and values related in the case? Question 4, you can say, what are the alternative calls of action? What are the alternative calls of action? In question 5, what is the best course of action to the principles, the norms, the principles, and values that are identified in step number 3? What is the best course of action that is consistent to the principles, the norms, the principles, and values that are identified in step number 3? So question number 4, what is the best course of action consistent to the norms, the principles, and values identified in step number 3. And then, so here you are going to have, you're supposed to make you're going to have 2 decisions, whether to reject or to accept. Now, this is not a hypothesis testing question or decision making paper set by Mr. Taloka. This is a very easy question, okay? If you look at the last question in a ZiCA manual, there's that question about the clothing company, where one stolen the design of a cloth and later decided to sell. So was it ethical to accept the sale or reject? So you make a decision whether to accept or reject. So question 6, you can say, what are the consequences of the possible cause of action? What are the consequences of the best cause of action? Okay, so you can have 1 there, maybe reject, 2 accept. What's the best? Maybe you need to reject. If you accept, then you're going against the ethical issues. Why? Because maybe the brand is stolen. Then you accept to sell something which is stolen. That would be unethical. You look at the question, the last question in your textbook. Then lastly, you can say what is the decision. This is why you conclude. Okay. Then in part C, let's go to part C. Part C says, suppose, okay, before we go to C, I said there are two models, the A model. The other model that you can use in ethical scenarios is the ZiCA 5-question model. Again, I'm not going to look at the question, just go to the textbook. The last question there is a good question under the ZiCA 5-question model. So the other model is your ZiCA 5-question model. Now, these questions are profitable, legal, is it right, is it fair, is it sustainable? Okay, that's a ZiCA 5-question model 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the question, just go to the textbook. Does this model has not yet been examined, the ZiCA? Only the AA model has been asked December 2019. So part C, let's go to part C. It was a calculation question. It says, suppose that this company is facing a serious problems of sexual harassment among its employees, which is negatively affecting its performance. The following figures apply. Book value of capital employed 500,000, non-profit after tax 100,000, work 20%. Calculate EVA and determine the managerial performance of this company. So calculate EVA. This is the economic value added. Calculate the economic value added. Okay. Now the formula is non-profit after tax, multiply this by the book value of capital employed, multiply this by the weighted average cost of capital. Now, your capital employed is what you call the working capital, which is current asset minus current liabilities. Now, this was already given. All these figures were given. Now, in the question, there was a typing error. Work was given as 20%. Now, the question was supposed to be, you're supposed to calculate work. Work was supposed to be given, but you're supposed to calculate work. Yeah, you can prove that this question there was a typing error, because if you calculate book value was given as 500,000, if you say 20% of 500,000, then if you net that with a non-profit after tax, which was given as 100,000, if you net these two, you are going to have 0, because this 500 multiplied by 20% is 100,000, then 100,000 by 100,000 is 0. So to correct this question, take it from me that you're supposed to calculate work. Now, to calculate work, what you need is the cost of equity, which was omitted in the question. You need equity. Okay, you need the pre-tax cost of debt, and you need the debt. So let's assume that the pre-tax cost of debt is 18%. The cost of equity are given as 15%. Then equity 75%. Then debt, we are going to give it 25%. So that to calculate work, you simply say 15%, multiply this by equity 75%. This is multiplied by the pre-tax cost of the debt, 18%, and the debt, the 25%. So that when you compute that with the calculator, of course, you are going to get work as 15.75. So this is what is needed here, 15.75, and not 20% as in the question. That was a typing error. So 15.75% multiplied by 5,000, you are going to get you're going to get 78,750 minus 10,000, 100,000. If you net the two, you get 21,250. Now you need to compute this as a percentage of book value. Okay, so say 21,250, the book value is 500. Multiply this by 100, and what you're going to get is 4.25. 4.25. So you compare 4.25 and what you had as work. Okay, the percentage of book value is less than work. So you conclude that the managerial performance is poor. Okay, that's how you calculate the EVA. Then let's go to part A. Part A says, describe how the company can safeguard its system and procedure in terms of unethical behavior like the ones that are cited above. Now, very quickly, let me look at the scenario before we discuss some of the possible safeguards. It says a survey by ethical resource centers of 1,324 employees of 747 American companies found that 48% of these employees said that they had engaged in one or more unethical issues or illegal actions during the past years. The most common questionable behavior involved cutting corners on quality, that was 16%, and covering up incidents, 14%, abusing or lying about sick days, 11%, and this is very common. Find that employees, ladies, most especially, they will bring in sick notes, fake sick notes, arranged by nurses. Okay, and that is very unethical. Okay, and lying or deceiving customers, 9%. Then some 6% of workers reported pressure to act unethically or illegal on the job. So if you see that these things are becoming a problem in your firm, what are some of the measures, or how can you safeguard such kind of a system? What are the procedures that you can safeguard your system? Okay, so to answer this question, you can simply say, 1, compliance with the fundamental principles should be stressed by the firm leadership. Okay, you've got your principles, and so if you go beyond, you break those rules. For instance, I was put in a hearing for using the customer entrance instead of using the exit doors, because our procedure security says that if you are a Pick n Pay employee, don't use customer's entrance, use the back. Just because of that, I was put in a hearing. Now that's what you call policies and procedures that are put in place, okay, to assure that you adhere to the principles of the company. So 1, you can say compliance with fundamental principles should be stressed by firm leadership. B, you can say the expectation that employees who act in a public interest should be established by the firm leadership. Number 3, you can say quality control policies and procedures should be in place. 4, you can say documented policies covering independence threats and safeguards in relation to assurance engagement. 5, you can say documented internal procedures requiring compliance with fundamental principles. 6, policies and procedures enabling identification of interest and relationship between the firm's team and client. 7, policies and procedures to manage reliance on revenue from a client. 8, it's a 7-mark question. 8, using different terms for non-assurance work. Then you can say prohibiting individuals who are not team members from influencing the outcome of